Hi, I'm Mary Gleason, and I am a Congregational Stewardship Services consultant with the UUA.
And I'm Mark Ewert. I'm also a Congregational Stewardship Services consultant, and we're talking today about the fourth program, which is a stewardship development program. I'm talking to Mary specifically about stewardship education. So, Mary, what do you mean by stewardship education, and why is that important to our congregations?
Stewardship education is a fairly new concept built around things we pretty much already know. It's a very focused look at how we steward the things that are important in our life, specifically around money. We have in our faith tradition a program called Our Whole Lives, or OWL, that deals with sexuality and relationships, and it's presented to us at different times in our lives, from as children, as youth, and again as adults. And it talks about taking these naturally occurring things in our lives and pairing them up with our values. I like to think of stewardship education as the owl of money. It's another thing that ebbs and flows in our lives and has tremendous power if we use it correctly and if we align it with our values. So I think it's important that we take that time out to look at what we value and how we act on it with our money, the same way we do other things in our lives.
And Mary, I was telling you recently about a great example of this that I learned at the Washington Ethical Society in Washington, D.C. They have stewardship education can be geared towards people at all ages, as you were saying, in reference to OWL, actually. At Washington Ethical Society, they were doing a module for their kids about child labor and giving some specific information about American companies that use subcontractors overseas that still use child labor. A couple of them are prominent chocolate companies. So the kids decided that they really didn't want to be buying chocolate from these companies anymore because they happen to use child labor in some distant form, but they still utilize child labor for producing their products. Not only that, the kids decided they didn't want to buy these chocolates anymore, and they influenced their parents' spending decisions around buying the chocolate as well. So that's really, as you were saying, aligning their values with their financial resources and spending habits.
It's a perfect example. Perfect example.
So isn't stewardship something that we naturally do?
It is, and we do it on many, many levels. I think our intention here today is to focus stewardship, to have it be much more intentional. And I have three points, the three I's that I like to encourage people to use. One is information, inspiration, and intention. Information means you really need to take time to know what it is you want to do. You need to go out and research it. You need to think about things. There are big issues to solve in the world. If you want to bring about ending hunger, that's a pretty big task. So how can you really break that down? You need information. You need to find that piece that really strikes your passions, and you need to focus on that. Inspiration is finding that passion and having it really inform your daily lives, such as not buying a chocolate bar so that you can make a difference in the things that you care about. And then intention is deliberately planning how you're going to live within those values. Because without that intention, we may mean well, but we may not actually be making the difference we really wanted to make.
Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about stewardship education, how is stewardship different from the annual budget drive or from fundraising in general?
Love that question. When we think about the annual budget drive, it tends to be in relationship to the budget, thus its name. When we think about a stewardship drive, what we're really asking people to do is to look at the value that the congregation brings to their lives and to assess for themselves how can they be as generous as possible to ensure that the congregation and the denomination itself continue on, because it brings so much value to your world. So there's a story, a very short story, of one woman who asked me while visiting my church, how can you possibly take up the collection before the sermon? That's consumerism. That's transactional giving. What we're looking for is transformational giving that says we don't buy and sample pieces. This is not an a la carte selection. This is transformational, that we accept it in its whole, we use all of it to inform our lives, and we support it because it's important, and there are bits and pieces that happen along the way.
That's very helpful, and I can see how that would create the need for some stewardship education around topics like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mary.
You're welcome. Thank you.